There he is, right there, Pastor.
Well, my name is Brett McDonald. I'm the senior pastor here. And it's a privilege to come up and kind of bless you. And man, one of the things that we say around here at church is every gift in action. We want every gift to be in action. And I have certain giftings, leadership, preaching, teaching, shepherding. Safety and security is not really in that list. But we have some people at our church, men and women, who that is their gifting. And they do a great job, and they take care of our safety and our security here in a lot of different ways, so that it frees me up to be able to preach and to be able to lead this church in the ways that I'm gifted. And so we really want every gift in action. And I think that's really your heartbeat as well, as you're here to learn. And I'm sure that your pastor feels the same way, that they're freed up to do the things that they're gifted to do in order to lead the church, while you're freed up to do the things that you're gifted to do. And so I'm so grateful that you're here. We're grateful to host and be a part of what God's doing. And so let me just pray for you and bless you, and you guys can get on with your conference. Father, I'm grateful for these men and women. I'm grateful for their giftings and the way that you've made them. They defend the church, they protect the church, and you have sent them for such a time as this. And so as they gather today to learn and to think about these things and to sharpen, I pray that you would bless them and that you would lead them in the way that you want them to go. And you would provide all that they need, and that you would do only good for them. And we pray that you would do these things in the mighty name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. All right. Well, how many of y'all this is your first time to come to one of our conferences? Wow. That's a lot of people. I'm used to so many people coming. They used to come every year. But it's good to have y'all. So you don't know me very well, so I'm going to give you a little bit of who I am. So I was raised a Methodist minister's son. My wife, Marion, she's Assembly of God, so we have a mixed marriage, we call it. Let me see, I was an electrician, and handled cotton, and worked in a cotton gin for a while. Then in '77, I went to be an accountant for a little rare coin company called Steve Ivy Rare Coin. And so started working for them, and then we kind of grew and grew and grew, and now they're Heritage Auctions. They got a big building in Dallas. In '80, they decided that I needed to be in charge of security. So being one of the largest antiquity dealers in the world, you can imagine that I was in charge of what I would call secular security. So, you had video surveillance, you had, we had the bars and the overhead ducts and the laser beams overhead, and moving vaults and making AA safe completes. That's lingo for high gear security, private security. And basically working for a couple of millionaires, and I didn't have any experience. I didn't want to join the armed services, and I didn't want to be a police person, because neither one of them made very much money. They still don't make as much money as they should. But so I looked around to see where I could get some education. And back then, and probably still to this day, the quote, Harvard of bodyguard schools is Executive Security International out of Colorado. So it's basically a associate's degree in executive protection. And so I did all the gun stuff. John Farnham was my firearms instructor. Had a guy at the FBI for explosive stuff. Wally Dallenbach was our race car driver. We learned how to do pit maneuvers, and it was just really, really cool. So that's where I got some of my technical expertise. And then after about 20 years there, I left and did a number of different things. I was working for a company that did disaster recovery and emergency planning, basically business continuity from a technical point of view. Big data centers, if you lost a data center, you'd have to replicate that somewhere else. I was well, they called us protocol analysts. What we were professional hackers. We used sniffers to attach to networks and basically do anything we wanted to them. So I got some really good experience in the technical point of view. Then I worked for Ericsson for a while, being their enterprise recovery management. So it was, again, emergency planning. So I got a lot of emergency planning background. Then in 2002, right after 9/11, my wife and I we were going to a church in the DFW area. If you know who Ed Young is, it was Ed Young's Fellowship Church. And, it's church security is not a mega church thing. It's merely the number of people that come through your doors. There's a certain percentage of people you're going to have problems with. So if you're a small church, you're just going to have less problems with less people. Where mega church, you're just going to have more people. So when you start running around, people ask me, well, when should you get a full-time security person? Well, it depends on the size of your church. It depends on how many square feet you got, how many seats you got in your auditorium. If you've got 7,500 seats in your auditorium, that's a big church. That's like New Life Church in Colorado Springs or Prestonwood in Dallas. I think that when you're running around 5,000 people a weekend, and that's how many people come through your doors in a week. So running 5 services of 3,500 seats, you're running a pretty big operation, about 5,000 people. They were running about that much, and some people got on stage. They didn't have very much security, and the next thing you know, I picked up the church bulletin, and there's the deal says, we need to have open position for a church security coordinator. So I applied with my expertise, I guess, my experience. They chose me. Now, it's totally different when you're in a secular world. It's when you're in the church world. In 2005, when I left that church, I incorporated the National Organization of Church Security and Safety Management. So, long story short, we're probably the oldest church security organization. We're a 501c3. We have we have a website. It's $99 a year for membership to the website with policies and procedures. If you go on YouTube, you go to the Gatekeeper program. There's a lot of videos there. Most of them are technical. It's not real short. Most of them are sessions of videos that we've done from our conferences. So in our conferences, we bring in people that obviously have expertise, maybe not exactly in the church world, but in something that the church world can benefit from. Our conferences are for church administrators as well as for gatekeepers, our church security teams. So yeah, sometimes we have sessions on gun stuff. I mean, we could have a whole session on P320s, right? Nobody's up to P320s now, okay? If you're a gun person, you know what I'm talking about. And we can discuss that if you want to. I have several. I don't use them anymore. So in 2005, we incorporated National Organization of Church Security and Safety Management. I was doing some consulting for a large church in Houston, and they had a guard company running their daily guard service, and they were dissatisfied, and they asked me if we would do that. So we incorporated the Gatekeeper Security Services, LLC, in 2006. So in that, yeah, we did guard services, but back then in Texas, how many people here are from outside of Texas? Just a few, okay, so most of this is going to be Texas specific, so it does apply to y'all. So back then, you had to have a license in order to practice church security. Nowadays, you don't, and we'll talk about that at the end of this session. We were sending people for the formal education to other companies that just did secular guard service. They would train people to be guards at the warehouse in South Dallas type stuff. So we decided that we needed, if we were going to teach the state curriculum, we wanted to really give it from a church perspective. So that's when we made the Christian Security Institute. So that is a Class F school, licensed by the Texas Department of Public Safety Private Security Bureau. And we have offices in downtown Denton. We have a building there with classrooms for basically a dojo, part of it, defensive tactics area, and then we have another area for the classroom. And then we have a firearms training facility. It's not a gun range. Firearms training facility outside of the Dallas area in the Collinsville area. So we have a number of acres that we do live fire training. When we first started this, we wanted a scripture that reflected what we did. So we adopted 1 Chronicles 9:21, and that's where it talks about the gatekeepers that were chosen among the people that were the Jews, and they chose various people to be guards at all of the entrances to the temple. So therefore, we call our guys gatekeepers. I mean, I know there's the sheepdog movement, but there's no sheepdogs in the Bible. Gatekeepers are in the Bible, and therefore we feel like we're scripturally and biblically appointed to do what we do. So, protecting God's people. So, my part here is to kind of tell you, well, what is the threat? What are we protecting all of our people from? So we talk about security and we talk about safety. To me, it's two different things. Safety to me is the trip, stumble, falls, the acts of God, natural occurrences, things like that. I know that some people, specific to Texas, there's nothing wrong with calling your church security team a security team. That people go, oh, well, it's against the law to call them security. No, it's not. It's against the law to wear anything that has the word security on it, as if you were the security team, unless you're a licensed security team. You have and we'll talk about the licenses. But people sometimes think, well, my liability insurance is going to go up if we call them a security team. No, it's not. You can call it safety all you want, but to me, safety is those natural acts, whereas security is bad people doing bad things on purpose. In Texas, there's several things called the warrantless arrest. In other words, I don't have to have a warrant to arrest you. Yeah, it's citizen's arrest. What are those two things that you can arrest people for? Actually, it's three things. Felonies committed within your view, Code of Criminal Procedure 1401. Disturbances or breach of the peace committed within your view, or to prevent the consequences of theft. Now, in our standard operating procedures, we don't include the third one. In other words, if somebody is going to steal a television or stealing something, our directive to our gatekeepers is take the information, write it down. That's what insurance is for, call the cops, but don't go over and start grabbing some guy who you feel is stealing somebody. Why? Why would I say that? Because he may be a bad guy, and what do bad guys sometimes carry? They carry guns. And do you think they care if you come over and start grabbing them? Do they care if they pull out their gun and start shooting, they kill somebody? No, they don't care. So we're telling you, unless it's real easy, it's like a 12-year-old kid or something like that. Well, some of those can be dangerous too. So there's the difference between protecting your people, protecting God's people, and protecting God's televisions, stuff like mics and things like that, material possessions, we really don't care that much about. So what are the kind of threats that we would be looking at? For emergencies, you need policies and procedures. You're going to have your medical team. Medical teams, we think that you ought to use licensed nurses and doctors and EMTs and people like that. Now, they will have their own protocols to work with, so let them do their job. There's no harm in you trying to help the best that you can, but there's a thing called the Good Samaritan Act, if you're familiar with that. That means if you try the best you can without trying to do something, giving somebody a tracheotomy or something like that. You want to, keep your expertise in medical down to a base level. Carrying tourniquets, carrying the vents, stick-on vents, things like that are good for gatekeepers themselves. As far as a medical, you're going to see minor bumps and bruises, and then you're going to have, heavy-duty trauma. So having equipment for both those things. Everybody have an AED in their church, right? I mean, it's almost to where if you don't have one, you could be held responsible legally, I guess you could say. Those are good things to have. Then your weather emergencies. Who has a plan for watching the weather for, what do we have here? We have tornadoes. Now, to me, a hurricane is not an emergency event. You kind of know it's coming, and if you know it's coming, you don't really need to prepare that much for it other than decide whether you're going to have services that weekend. In your policies and procedures, do you already have a plan for watching the weather? Who's going to say when the tornado comes and we need to evacuate, or where do we need to go in order to protect all the people? It's like a person that's going to come out on stage and say, yeah, we need to evacuate. You need to have all that planned out, because the pastor who's probably preaching at the time, he's not going to know what's going on, but you need somebody watching the weather. So those are your shelter-in-place plans. And then for evacuation, a fire evacuation. I once heard somebody say that, well, we were in a church security seminar, and the guy said that an active shooter plan, a great active shooter plan would be to go and pull the emergency fire pull station. It's like, what are you thinking? Well, to get everybody out. No, we don't want everybody out. We want everybody to lock in, to be locked in. So you need to already have these plans in place for emergency situations. Now, is it just for Sundays? All your plans centered around Sundays. How about during the week? What do you have at your church during the week? You're probably going to have a church office, and in the church office maybe the secretary or the administrative assistant. What happens if somebody comes in the door and wants money? Do you have a plan for that? Does she know what to do? Because some of these guys that come in off the street are very aggressive. How many people have had instances where that something like that has happened? I see a couple. Yeah. So it's not just for Sundays. If you have a school, who all has a school on their campus? Okay. One of the things that we do is we provide training to gatekeepers, and we put them in the schools, private schools. We have one church that the head coach is a gatekeeper. I mean, when I say gatekeeper, I mean he's armed, he's there all the time, he's ready to go. He's part of your security team, but these guys are full-time employees of the school, but we also carry their liability and their licenses. So you got schools, you got your midweek Mother's Day out, you got security at your Mother's Day out. I know that most of your security team, the guys probably have full-time jobs. Who is going to be at Mother's Day out, or at Vacation Bible School, or at Wednesday night? How many people have Wednesday night youth services? Yeah, most of the times your high school or your youths or on Wednesday nights. Do you have security there? So it's not just for Sundays. Then let's talk about nonviolent crime, affinity crimes. That's like there was a Ponzi scheme operating out of Benny Hinn's ministry long time ago, and it was about investing in a paint company. And of course it was a Ponzi scheme, so yeah, a lot of people got relieved of their hard-earned cash. Home group infiltration. How many people have home groups? A lot of people have. It used to be Sunday schools, now they call them home groups, where you have everybody comes over. Think about, if you put yourself as being the bad guy. And what do I get to see if I get to walk into your house? You welcome me into your house. I'm a member of the church, but only for 2 weeks. I mean, what does it take to join your church? You walk in, sometimes, it used to be you just walk down front and you said, I want to join the church. And they said, congratulations, you're in. Now it's you go to Church 101, some group. And even at that, you may talk to somebody and you say, well, what do you do for a living? What do you do for a living? You don't know whether they're telling you the truth or not. There are people that have come to church groups and their specific purpose is to see what they can steal. They get to know where you work, what hours that you work, who's at home during the day. They get to look around your house. They get to see if you've got video, see if you've got a burglar alarm system, if you've got a dog. I hope we have 2 large ones. When you're thinking about security measures for your church, try to be devious, and some people it's easier to do than others. But think about the things that could happen that you weren't really prepared for, and that devious bad people might do. Benevolence abuse. So during COVID, we had a home group, and it was all over video, over Zoom. So it had a Zoom group, and we'd put it in the church directory of home groups, and people would come into the home group, and they'd have the background and the Zoom all blurred out. You could see them, and one of the key giveaways was that they would say, well, I don't have a job, I'm looking for a job. And, I need a new home, or my car broke down, or something like that. And we would say, well, great, there's a ministry that takes care of that at the church. You should call them, because they deal with giving Giving out money, yeah, that's what it is. Giving out, helping you along. And the typical response that we got from these not so legitimate people would be, well, I tried that and they didn't do anything for me. But you could tell they were fishing for us to give them money. And of course we had a procedure that we would report that to the lady who was in charge of all the groups. Kind of funny because after like 2 or 3 sessions, they would just like disappear. We never see them again. So yeah, bad people doing bad things on purpose. Identity theft, yeah, the church records for all you people that are actually pastors or maybe on staff. Think of all the information the church has, and if you had a big hack, the information they could get away with. So there's another crime. Embezzlement. This is a great one. Now it's very public, so I'm not telling you anything I shouldn't. But this is Houston's First Baptist Church, one of these churches that I used to work with professionally. And there was the head, the CEO, or the chief financial officer, the CFO, the chief financial officer. And the deal is that they would have short-term mission groups, mission trips. You know what a short-term mission trip? You go somewhere and you paint the building down in Mexico or something like that. And of course the church would usually pay for all this, right? So they would plan mission groups. They'd cut a check for the church that they were going to, and they'd cut one check, and the one check would be for all of the per diem, so all the hotel stay for the group that was going, all their meals and their expenses, mileage, whatever it was however they got there, and then the rest of the money would be for the supplies, the paint, the whatever it was that you were doing down there. So I really like this church because they had one missionary. I said, "Where's Fred?" And he goes, "Oh, they're on a mission trip." And where's that? "Oh, they went to Hawaii this year." It's like, oh, great! That's a great mission trip to go on. I want to go there. So this is going all great. They were having all these mission trips, and the CFO, he would go. And he would say, well, okay, here's the $50,000 check, and 25 of that is for the per diem for the people, so I need you to give me that money. And they would cut him a check or whatever, and he'd take that, make it out to me, it's okay. I'll make sure the people get the money. Well, it was going all right for him for a while, and then somebody asked one of the people that went on the mission trip, well, how's that per diem working out? Is the money, are y'all getting fed pretty good? I mean, it's like $25 a day for food. Is that enough? I go, what are you talking about? We all pay for it. No, we would never take money from the church. We pay for our own. This guy was pocketing the money, and they finally caught him because they asked somebody. And yeah, he got 10 years. He stole over $800,000 over 7 years. And they finally caught him. This is the CFO of this huge church. So yeah, there's bad guys doing bad things, especially when it comes to money. There was even a trip to China that didn't even happen that he got money for. So, and he used the money to pay for school for his doctorate in ministry. So it was really weird. Again, okay, vandalism, that's crimes against property. Usually you might see something like that. It's not a real big threat, but at least it costs money to fix. Theft of equipment. So, how do you steal a complete drum set from a church? You get the facilities guys to help you load it. And it's like, so this stuff disappears, and it's like, Okay, in staff meeting, we run back the videotape and you get the video off of the system, and we put it in front of the staff and go, does anybody recognize these people? Because these are the people that obviously stole this stuff, because we got video of them, but we don't know who they are. And one of the person said, well, hold it. The bald guy, he came to our new members class the other day. And let me check. Yeah, he filled out a form. He didn't put his right name, but these guys are not, rocket science. They put his right address. So, you give it to the cops go to the address and knock on the door, and, well, no, he's not here. But his really mad ex-girlfriend is there. And she goes, he's not here, but I know where he's going to be. He's supposed to be in small claims court, in Dallas on Wednesday at 9 o'clock. So Wednesday at 9 o'clock, cops show up, here he comes, and boom, got him. So, that's a good thing it's good to have video surveillance. It might pay off one of these days. So, crimes against people. That's crimes against stuff, now crimes against people. Probably the one thing that happens more than you'd ever imagine is sexual predators in churches, especially in the children's department. Who all uses Ministry Safe? A bunch of you, yeah. They're like the originators of this kind of company. Greg Love and his wife, they were the originators. They are lawyers, of course. They run Ministry Safe. Ministry Safe is a great ministry. I think it used to be $100 a year plus $5 a person, and that was probably 15 years ago. It's probably $150 a year and $10 a person. So their program is you sign up, you got a volunteer who wants to work with children. They have a video series that you go through and you watch them. And it tells the people that are watching it how to identify and what are the characteristics of sexual abusers of children. It's a great program. I actually watched it and everything. And it tells a whole lot. You could give Greg Love, we usually have him come to like every other conference that we have. He's one of the best speakers that you'd ever have. Just coming to your church and talking to you about it. It's program where the people have to watch the videos. They have to take a little test afterwards. It's all about how to identify sexual abusers, the characteristics the things that they say, their mannerism, the grooming process. If you're not familiar with all these terms that I'm talking about, you need to be, or at least somebody at your church needs to be, the person who's in charge of the children, maybe. But it is, and some of the stories that he tells are horrific. A lot of people are in jail because of the things they did bad. There's a ministry, I forget the exact, but a lot of like the head pastor and a bunch of them are actually in prison because you have a certain, as a church and as ministry, you have a certain legal responsibilities to report any kind of sexual reporting of any kind. If somebody says, I did this or anything, you've got to report it, or it is a crime that you didn't report it. The thing about, y'all familiar with Daystar television scandal, that whole thing is about sexual deviation, sexual abuse. It can really impact a church really, really bad. They had one church Grace Church out of Tulsa, very well-known incident. This kid, he was raised in church, baptized in the church, favorite son of every, just grew up. Every mother wished that her daughter would marry this guy. Oh, he was the best thing since sliced bread. He went off to college. He came back and was director of I think it was the junior high program. Ended up, they found out that he was molesting boys at the school, in his office, at his home. I mean, this is the kind of guy that the parents would let their kids go over to his house, a bunch of them, and go swimming and stuff. I mean, but it ended up, they had just built a phenomenal children's building. It actually had a full-size carousel in the thing, It's how huge, and it's a great building. And then the first of 21 multi-million-dollar lawsuits started hitting. And up until about 5 years ago, they couldn't really, they could talk about it, but they couldn't give specifics because the last kid that was molested hadn't turned 18 yet. So, I mean, it's usually the last person you'd ever expect. Him? No, he would never do that. Or her. There's women that do the same thing. So, yeah, sexual abuse. And it's not only with kids. We're supposed to give them a good education in Christian belief system. But, they are very vulnerable. They don't know when somebody's grooming them. It's up to us to put the boundaries up. In other words, be the gatekeepers of our own kids. There's adults preying on adults. This guy, you can't really see his picture because I kind of messed it up a little bit, but his deal was he was a serial date raper. He would come into a church and he'd get into the unmarried class, the singles class, and he'd get a girl over at his house, and then a compromising situation, and then basically commit date rape. Well, the good little Christian girl that went over there, you think she's going to tell everybody about it? No, she's embarrassed. It's a horrible thing. And so, but eventually, like they always do, women talk amongst each other, and the guy gets caught, and he'll run the gambit of one church until until everybody knows about what he's doing. Then he'll go to another church. So, yeah, that stuff happens. And the old, don't let your pastor counsel women alone in their office. This guy found guilty of raping 3 women. Of course, he got to be put in jail and got fired from his job, and that's why sometimes we have to look out for our pastors and tell our pastors, no, you can't do that, or yes, okay, you can do it, but we're going to put a camera in your office. Oh, we can't do that. Well, yeah, we can, or you're not going to be doing that. You got to protect them. Sometimes they're not, they're not the smartest crayon in the box. So how do you protect your pastor? How many people have a person on your security team that is assigned to the pastor? Okay, a few. Well, but probably about 25%. Most pastors don't like the idea of having somebody with them. They, Secret Service type stuff. I need to be within 7 feet of you to be able to protect you. That kind of thing. A lot of pastors don't like that. However, if you'll do it right, then sometimes they allow you to do that. Number one, if you're with the pastor, it's not such that you need to be real close to them. You need to have figured out who the bad person is in the room. You know, after the church service, get to meet the pastor meeting that everybody has after church. Well, I'm going to put one of the gatekeepers in there, and his job is to look in there and introduce himself to every single guy and girl and people that come in, and use the old aggressive friendliness. Everybody know what aggressive friendliness is, right? Hi there, my name's Chuck. Have you come here long? Blah, blah, blah. You know, being nice to, we're supposed to be nice to people in the first place. Your idea of security is that, okay, that's a little bit much. You look like a goof tater. But you've probably all seen this one. I think you don't really have to hear it, but it's nice to hear it.
Billy Joe Doherty has preached in more than 40 countries around the world, many of them dangerous places, but he's never encountered something like this.
We were about this far apart, and it was...
Last Sunday, as Doherty was giving the altar call at Victory Christian Center, a man steps through the crowd and punches the pastor in the face.
I mean, it was bam, bam. I had been preaching on praise and thanksgiving in every situation, and this guy walked forward. I thought he was coming to receive the Lord, but he had another plan.
No one knows what was on 50-year-old Stephen Rogers' mind. Rogers had been bussed in for the service from the John 3:16 mission. The two had never met before the altercation at the altar, but the pastor says there's a lesson to be learned in this.
The Bible says we may be knocked down, but we aren't knocked out. We're still in the game, and that's the message of life.
Doherty says he forgives a man who almost knocked him out. He's a pastor who practices what he preaches. Mark Bradshaw, News Channel 8.
So, okay, you saw the picture of that guy? Okay, if that guy's in your greeting line, you need to be aware. One time I had this guy, so yeah, it was one of these churches where, you know, after the service, the pastor comes down in the front and stands in the front, and the line starts down the middle of the aisle. People will come up and shake his hand. Well, about 10th in line is this guy, let me see how to say this, of Middle Eastern descent, between the ages of 18 and 34, wearing all white. I mean, all white. It's like, so, you know, one of the things about, if you're on what we call on the pastor, the best thing is for you to look like somebody who would normally be with him. In other words, in this one church, you know, the first service was the early service, and then we called it the blue hair service because all the blue hairs went there, because it was the not the contemporary, the traditional service. So in this church, we had a choir with choir robes. We had the orchestra. It wasn't a full orchestra, but it was the orchestra. It wasn't the guitar, the electric guitar, I'll tell you that. So it was the orchestra, and the pastor had on suit and, you know, white shirt, tie, the whole suit. So we had to come to church looking just like him. If I was standing next to him in a line, I needed to look just like another one of these assistant pastors. I didn't need to look like old Mr. Timmy Tactical. And there's a look for that too. And then the second service is the contemporary service. So now choir goes out, orchestra out, praise team in, rock band doing it. Same morning service, though. The only thing that was different is that pastor would take off his tie, so we took off our tie. Of course, you know, you've got a suit jacket on because you're wearing all the gear and typical personal protection officer gear. You're almost stacked all the way around. So what goes here? We're going to go. Maybe. Remember telephones? You used to have a little thing. You put the telephone on. We don't see that anymore, do we? But you're going to have badge, gun, handcuffs, baton, flashlight, magazine pouch, radio, you're stacked all the way around from here all the way back. So you've got to have something that's going to cover all that, right? So in the wintertime, well, in this particular, a suit jacket. In the evening service, now that's the unplugged service, so now you have to have a change of clothes, and you've got jeans, a shirt, usually a box shirt of some kind, because I need to be able to cover all that gear. So now you're having to buy shirts that are one size too big. Back to the story about the guy in white. So he gets closer and closer. I send somebody to be behind the guy, just watching his hands, because he's coming up there. He's probably got his hands folded like this, and so I can watch his hands pretty good. So he gets right up close to the pastor, and you're leaning forward a little bit, watching his hands, making sure he doesn't. What's the danger? Danger, yeah, he pulls out a gun. Probably more reasonable is he's got a knife and he goes for the knife stuff. So you've got to be able to grab his hands. He leans forward. He talks to the pastor. I can't hear what they say. They lean back, and the pastor just turns to me and goes, "Okay, he needs to go to Jason." Okay, Jason is our 6'8" guy. That's associate pastor. We lead him to Jason, and Jason takes him away. Ends up the guy thinks he's the chosen one, and Looney Tunes. We make sure we get a good picture of him. We say, Jason, y'all stand together. Let me get a good picture of you, so you'll have a good. Oh yeah. So always try to get a good picture of these screwballs that come to your church. Now, what's a disruption in your service? Like I said, before, that Methodist minister's son and Assembly of God wife. Okay, and you got any Methodists in here? Okay, in Methodism, you raise your hand, you want to ask a question. Okay, in Assembly, you got any Assembly of God people in here? Okay, both hands up, running up and down the aisles, sticks, tambourines, all that goes. Yeah, do it all, and yeah, Holy Spirit, go. So this person, obviously, what time of year was it? Easter. So this lady comes in. She's wearing this. It's like, oh my gosh. Okay, she's really causing a spectacle of herself. So at least go over there and ask her if she would remove her headdress. And we used to call this slide hair removal. But yeah, she said, well, if I take off my headdress, I'll be embarrassed because my hair will be all messed up. It's like, okay, if you're not causing attention already, people aren't really going to pay attention to your hair, lady. So, other kind of disruptive people, mentally impaired people. I mean, it's not that mentally impaired people are automatically disruptive. It is sometimes they forget to take their medicine, and when they do that, sometimes a little person other than themselves, the outside person, comes in or out. They can be a disruption. Physically impaired people. Once had a guy that insisted that we didn't have the handicap places where he thought they ought to be, and this caused a big disruption, and had to deal with that. Gothics and gangs. Anybody have problems with that? Usually on a Wednesday night when the kids are having their kids service, and these guys coming walking in. It's in the wintertime. They get black trench coats on, all gothed out and everything. It's like, okay, buddies, you're just trying to attract attention to yourself. So, usually they come in, they play games and that kind of stuff, and then they go, okay, playtime's over with. This is high school type stuff. Everybody come in, we're going to give the message, the program. And so a lot of times these kids, they are just looking for somebody to pay attention to them and be intimidated by them. It's like you got to come in there and say, hey guys, usually they come for the playtime, and then when the program comes, they're either nowhere to be seen, or he walked out the door, or they want to sit where they won't go in the program. Okay, great. You guys came. We see you, and I'm glad you didn't try to intimidate anybody. But you guys got to go in the program now, or you got to leave. So, gangbangers, you got to watch them. They can be less than truthful with you a lot of times. What's in youth security, in youth group security, what's the biggest thing in youth group security on Wednesday nights? It's the old drop them off. Mom and dad, before they get to actually have a car, mom and dad will drop them off, and before they go in, Billy Joe comes up with his car, picks them all up, and they take off. So you need to have somebody outside watching all the kids get dropped off, make sure they get inside and not gone with Billy Joe. Because when do they come back? 10 minutes before they're supposed to be let out, so that mom and dad don't know that they've been not at the program all night long. So, persons with messages from God. Anybody have one of those? Yes, everybody does. Everybody raise your father. Your pastor is your person with the message from God. But there are other people that want to get up on stage and want to address the congregation, or they want to stand up in the middle of the service. You need to have an agreement with your pastor already. Is that, pastor, if a guy stands up in the middle of the service and starts yelling something, what do you want us to do? Some pastors, they want to try to handle it themselves. They want to be able to go, sir, if you'll sit back down, well, can we talk about this afterwards? Or there may be something that you don't know about. It may be that Uncle Fred's in town for the family reunion, and he may say, Uncle Fred, if you sit back down, we can talk about this at lunch. Because everybody knows Uncle Fred, and he doesn't take his medicine sometimes. You need to have an understanding with the pastor as to what you want us to do if somebody stands up in the middle of the church, in the middle of the sermon. Homeless people, I'm not characterizing all homeless people as bad, but you know what I'm talking about. The homeless guy that comes in and can cause a disruption, can be the person that starts yelling and screaming, or that he's on the drugs right now and he's screaming, he's seeing demons and stuff. Disgruntled former employees, estranged spouses, mommy sitting in the front row with her new boyfriend at church, and they just got a divorce, and dad's not happy. So how are you going to handle that? You got to be prepared. You got to be able to tell them that this is not the time to do this. There's another time if y'all can't get it straight. One of y'all needs to not come to church unless, or come to a different service if we have multiple service. Excessive charismatics. The Assembly of God guy in the Methodist Church. He's standing up, he's yelling and screaming, running up and down, or he's doing he's got something going on, being a distraction. It's not that we want to squelch the Holy Spirit in a church service. It's that when whatever you're doing becomes all about you, about the guy that's doing it, when it's being a distraction and taking away from what's going on in the service is when it needs to be addressed. And you need to have an understanding with your pastor or with your deacon board as to what's acceptable behavior. Here's one.
Amen. The new Melodiers.
Okay, so that was a bunch of gay people jumping up in the middle of the service, yelling and screaming, throwing pamphlets everywhere and saying, Jesus is a homo and all sorts of stuff. If you watched, what did the ushers do? They didn't grab them. These people that are like this and some other causes, their profession is getting you to lay hands on them. And once you lay a hand on them, you committed assault. Now the church is good for a pretty good lawsuit. So unless they're doing something that's hurting somebody, a danger to themselves or others, my advice is to pick up the pamphlets or whatever, escort them out, tell them, there are certain times when you do need to lay hands on them, and you need to understand when that is. I'm not here to tell you all that lecture, but you need to understand there is a certain times when you can and when you can't. Regular disturbances are going to be domestic disputes, stalkers. We've had I can tell you all sorts of stalking horror stories where, somebody, I see a certain pattern in churches and in pastors that when they're small, they have a certain attitude, and when the church gets bigger and bigger and bigger, you come to the point to where you've got a celebrity pastor. And when the celebrity pastor hits, then you've got, single women coming, searching for, God told me that I was supposed to, marry the pastor. And sometimes the pastor's even married and they're saying this stuff. So you can have that kind of problem. Of course, the mentally ill person that's, seeing demons and stuff. How many people have had Jesus Christ come to their church? I've had several Jesus Christ, and he's always usually a white guy that in his mid-30s and had too much cocaine in his earlier days and is kind of blown out in the head. So you'll see those kinds of people. And then we talked about the benevolence ministry, where people will come in and want money because the church. That's what the church is for. The church is to hand out $100 bills to everybody who needs help. And that's what some of these guys think. So you need to have a understanding with the church receptionist as to how to handle these people. Usually you'll have some kind of a goodie bag or something that doesn't have dollar bills in it. It has, maybe a bottle of water and some kind of snack, and go, here, at least you get something to get out. And here's the directions to the local help people, the ministry that for the homeless type people. But you need to have that taken care of. And please don't give your receptionist. I had one church say, well, we got that handled. We give our receptionist wasp spray. So that wasp spray stuff, you can shoot that pretty good all the way across the room. That's not a good idea. Not a good idea at all. Maybe she needs training with OC spray, but don't get carried away with having your own inventive solutions for that. Remember the jihadist threat? Remember when ISIS was around? What were we thinking? Then you got the white hate groups. We don't see a lot of white hate recently. Antifa, I hadn't seen Antifa for a long time. When was the last time we saw Antifa running around? It's kind of gone by the way. The Satanists, nowadays, the last thing I heard of the Satanists, they were having after-school Satan club at your high school. This kind of stuff really exists. And then incels, that's a different, these are guys that hate women because they won't have sex with them, and they've actually killed women. Bad thing, bad guys. Their philosophy is that you have the Beckys and then you have the Stacys. The Stacys are the the very sexual nature of women, as far as the Beckys are the yoga pants and hair in the bun type people. And then you got the guys, you got the virgin guy, that's the little wimp guy, then you got the Chad, who's the torqued up guy. These philosophies are in this group are not very well known, and we haven't really had any instances, but a church would be a good place for them to find a victim. Usually all of these groups, they don't have a lot of operational security. They don't have very good tradecraft as far as the talents and skills they developed, other than having a gun and maybe going to a gun range every once in a while. And they usually attack soft targets like churches. Y'all remember ISIS? And what was the deal? The first one was how to make a bomb in the kitchen of your mom, and they gave out the magazine that you could get. They used to subscribe to the magazine. And that's kind of gone away, hasn't it? I don't see that magazine out anymore. Then they had the whole thing about the ramming attacks, like in France they had that ramming attack. And we've had several in the United States and New York and places like that. We haven't seen them really attack a church yet in a lot of these groups. But remember when ISIS was around, what were y'all scared of? We were all scared that they were going to run in the back doors with AK-47s and mow us all down, right? And that never happened. And finally, we kind of got rid of them. So the jihadist threat is not really that big a threat that we've seen a lot of attacks. That's kind of gone away. Violent crime, robberies, rape, murder, suicide, most of it we see these active shooters. Every time we get a call, most time we get a call, it's like some church going, we need active shooter training, active shooter training, active shooter training. Yeah, there is a times and space for that. You can get kind of carried away sometime to where, well, what if they come through that door? Well, what if they come through that door? What if they come through that door? It's like, basically you need to have people that are armed, that are trained, and that are in particular spots in order to address the threat. Grabbing the pastor and having somebody on the pastor is a good thing. However, if you don't have very many people, you best have the people there to address the threat other than try to evacuate the pastor. Number one, the pastor's not going to want to go unless all the rest of the people go. And if the pastor doesn't go, all the rest of the people are going to stand there and watch the pastor do whatever the pastor does. So the best thing for the pastor to do is to get out and convince your pastor that, yeah, he needs to get out, not to try to stay and protect his people, because everybody else is going to stand around waiting for him to go. So, that's the whole nother training that you need. I'm not here to tell you about how to do it. So the primary motives in all these shootings is, either a hate or domestic violence, personal conflict, mental illness. Active shooters, I'm not going to go through just a few of these. Like probably the first one that ever happened that we can think about is in 1963, the 16th Street Baptist Church. You had these Ku Klux Klan guys. They planted 19 sticks of dynamite underneath this porch, and it killed 4 of these little girls. That was a hate crime. All of them got life sentences, and one guy never got charged because they couldn't figure it out. He finally died in '94. Then the Dangerfield, 1980. This guy came in, and he was a veteran, and he had come through, and he had an AR, and he ended up shooting 5 people, and he didn't die, he didn't commit suicide, but he committed suicide in prison afterwards, after they prosecuted him. Wedgwood Baptist Church in Fort Worth. I know the first guy that got shot, that was a very famous one where he killed 7 of them. Was it Larry Ashbrook? Yeah, Al Ashbrook. And his deal was, it was on a Wednesday night, and all these kids were having, youth high school services, and he came in and started shooting people. They thought it was a skit. That's the old skit thing. Do we have skits anymore that involve guns? We used to. In fact, I had this one church. They had a good-sized church. They rented out their auditorium to an Hispanic youth group. So they had the band there and everything, and they had a really nice audio-video system, and they didn't want anybody else to mess with it. So they had to have one of their people there at the front of house running the show. And he was a concealed carry guy, and he had his gun with him. And so they started the service, and they were having, they were speaking, it was a Spanish youth group, they were speaking Spanish. Well, the guy at the front of house with the gun, he didn't speak Spanish. And so the service, they're playing some music and stuff, rocking out, and all of a sudden, like 4 guys come running in with guns, with face mask on, the ski mask on, come running in, and they come running down the aisle toward the guy in the front that was the master of ceremonies, and I put the gun up to him. What do you think the guy in the front of the house was doing? He was almost there, and he heard the psh, psh. It was airsoft guns. And the master of ceremony had spoken in Spanish and told everybody that there's going to be something going on, but just go with the flow. And the guy in the front of the house did not speak Spanish, therefore he didn't have any idea what was going on. He almost shot one of them until he heard the sound of the airsoft going off. Almost, it was almost done, almost gone. Oh, sorry. So, all right, a bunch of different, New Life Church shooting, all sorts of different, the Sikh temple shooting, the Emmanuel AME Church, 9 people died. Then Sutherland Springs, 26, I think that's the record so far. Tree of Life Synagogue, 11 people. And then one of the newer ones, the girl that thought she was a boy and decided that she wanted to kill a bunch of kids in a Christian school. She ended up killing 3 kids and 3 adults. That was that girl. So, and there's been several others. There's the one where the guy has a shotgun, the other guy, the ex-FBI. We just, over and over and over again, we see all these shootings. But I will tell you is that the brightest lights attract the most bugs. And, we put bulletin boards on the freeway saying, hurt, are you sick? Do you need God? Come to us. So, don't be surprised when they show up, because we advertise for them to show up. How do we minimize the risk? Okay, so we have this methodology called the 3 strands of church security. First strand is your policies and procedures. That's a written document where your church and your elders have said, this is what we want you to do. We authorize you to do this stuff. Second strand, first strand policy, second strand is your human resources. Your ushers, greeters, parkers, preschool workers, everybody has a little bit to do with church security. Even if you see something, say something. Then the last strand is your systems and tools that make your human resources better equipped to take care, to do what the policies and procedures told the second strand to do. So you see how the three strands are all tied together after Ecclesiastes, where it talks about, three strands being woven together is stronger than one. So put all these things together. Systems and tools are like child check-in systems, video surveillance, even the type of gun that you have. All these things are systems and tools. Let's get back to your human resources. We talk about parkers, greeters, ushers, preschool workers, all these people. Let's talk about the security teams. So I know everybody has a different idea about what a security team should do, or what they should be, how they should be trained. What we do is we have a way of doing formal training of our security team. We have a way to, everybody's concerned about the liability and how is the liability going to fall and who are we going to use. Well, there's about five different ways to do a security team in Texas. You've got the off-duty law enforcement. Okay, primary liability is going to fall on the police department if something happens. Training, they have training standards, and in Texas it's 720 hours to get your peace officer license per se. They also go through psychological testing. How many people here do psychological testing of MMPI-2 by a psychologist for your security team? I know this church does because they're one of our churches. How do you know these guys aren't crazy? Just because they remember your church and they got a gun, I got a gun and I want to be in your security team. Okay, I'm going to go a little bit further than that. Cost ranges anywhere from $50 to $80 an hour, 4-hour minimum for police. The problem is if you wanted a policeman for every church, there's not enough in most cities to cover every church. You can contract private security. They've got liability insurance, liability coverage. It's going to fall on them. They do have state training standards. In Texas, there's 62 different professions that require a license. Security is one of them that you can get a license for that has a state program. The question is, what is the amount of training that you should have? In Texas, we have the thing called the Private Security Bureau that has a set of standards that we go by. Other than that, you're on your own to make up whatever you want. Psychological testing is a part of that standard. And to hire an outside firm, it's about $30 to $75 an hour with a 4-hour minimum. The church can actually become a security company if you want them to. You just have to, you have to make a corporation. You have to do all the things that a regular company has to do. Well, what we've done is we have a security company, and what we do is we will take your volunteers, we'll put them through our state school. They come out as personal protection officers, and then we redeploy them under a regular standard security contract, deploy them back into your church, and the church pays. You get to pay for the training, but you also pay by the hour for the number of hours that your guys are on duty. So it's just like hiring an outside party. The church can say, we hired a third-party firm to do this. The church is not responsible for it, per se. Of course, who are they going to sue? They're going to sue who are the things they're going to get the most money from. Usually it's going to be the security company. Okay, we've been doing this for 20 years, never been sued, never had a deadly force incident. Yeah, we've had incidents, but not deadly force. So Senate Bill 2065, that was the law that they changed that said churches no longer have to be under the Private Security Act. Actually, you're totally exempt from any security regulations. No training is required. Zero liability, no financial responsibility is required. Liability, of course, falls directly to the church and to the individual. You can only do it on church property. You don't even have to have an LTC to do it, because church is private property, and on private property, the owner of the private property can designate anybody they want to walk around with any kind of gun they want, except a bazooka. No bazookas. And there's so many people. I mean, we used to, you Google church security, and we used to be like one of the only ones. Now everybody and their dog's mother's in on it now. It's like everybody who's ever been a policeman and wanted to get into the business, now they're a church security professional, and they're going to train you how to do it right. You're going to be trained by Navy SEALs. Anyway, so that's kind of our program. In licensing, in church and private security licensing, you've got level 2, think mall cop. Level 3, think bank guard, exposed weapon, no concealed. And then level 4, think armed bodyguard. All of the training that you get, there's a standard manuals that we go by. It does take, level 2 is a 8-hour home study course, you could say. Level 3 is 4 days. We give that once a month. It's on a Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. It does take 4 days. That's the biggest deal. You have to take off work 4 days. And level 4 is 2 days of usually given on the third weekend. So all the training is equal to about 6 days, plus you have to go through a psychological evaluation. It is the MMPI-2, which is which is a national standard. It's it's like if you've ever been in law enforcement, and in some military, they do give it, but it's basically a thing that you get a piece of paper you can show to your wife. You say, "See, honey, I'm not crazy after all." But there's a cost for all this. Soup to nuts, the training is about $920 a person. And then after that, we enter into a contract with Gatekeeper Security Services. And then we have a schedule. You have to go by a schedule every month. The schedule is given out, or that you make your own schedule, and then you're billed once a month. And it just kind of goes on forever. We have probably 100 churches in Texas that do this, and about 400 active officers now. Like I say, we've been doing it for like 20 years. So, anybody got a quick question that they want to ask?